on there, but and so like I was saying, I really love this topic. It's something that I created probably about 15 years ago. And we've taught it to countless students, many students with disabilities, students who are, we've even had kids who were in, quote unquote, wealthy schools who learned a lot from this topic, because in those schools, a lot of parents do so much for them that, that sometimes the idea of taking what's inside of me and doing it is like a unique, a novel idea. And so this topic, passion mapping, connecting dreams to careers. I know we touched on it in some of the early parenting meetings, but I want to do a set aside training that you all can use. My hope is that you can use this as you're interacting with the parent committee as we, get it to where we want to get it. This could be a tool that I'm hoping that today's session and last session could just be a tool that we can use, okay? And so let me kind of dive into some of this. And this is going to be more of a discussion, because of the size of our group, and feel free to chime in, to add your thoughts, because that's what this is really all about. You know what I mean? And so my hope again is this information is going to be helpful. We won't go for long, we're about an hour max, and then we'll move on. Okay. That good looking guy is me, just in case you were wondering who that was. And that is my good side. I keep mentioning that to folks because my photographer told me the other side was my good side. So, so I listen to I let the experts teach me. So that's my good side. But as you can see in this picture, I'm a parent. I love being a parent. I just love fatherhood. I love, I've been married 28 years. I love all of it because I didn't grow up with it. Divorce was rampant in my family. And so I take all of it serious. And I realized the importance we play as parents in our children's lives. So that encouraged me to write the book, The Parent is Coach, Developing a Family Dream Team. Because I realized, and let me tell you all why I say I realize it. I used to always hear parents say that something was somebody else's responsibility. And so my thing was, and I shared this, I tell you, I probably got in trouble for doing this, but I remember one time I met with the Secretary of Education. And this is what I shared with him. All right. As he did this eloquent speech on education in our youth and all that, here I come with my words of wisdom. And I said to him, his name was Rod Page. He was the secretary under George Bush. And I said, Mr. Page, I just want to say this to you. I loved your presentation, sir. I was deeply moved. I said, but the reality is, because he was talking about character and schools building character in kids and all that kind of stuff. And I said, sir, the reality is math, reading, science, arithmetic, and all that, that's your responsibility. Character is mine. Self-determination is mine. Helping my kids find a sense of purpose, that's mine. Now, the school is a partner in that process. But as a parent, I'm the one. And my wife and I are the ones that need to instill purpose, need to teach our children how to respect people when they're with them. A school should not be having to teach. Now, educate on it, sure. But the foundation, that comes from home.
Absolutely.
And so I've said that over and over again, so much to the point I said, I need to write a book on this because I'm hearing all these people talking about what need to be done by outside sources instead of looking at what needs to be done with inside. And so the premise of the whole concept of the parent as coach is the parents are the coach of the household team. Everybody else is an assistant coach, mm-hmm. Using sports analogy.
Yep.
And so the day what we want to talk about is this whole thing of the passion mapping process, connecting dreams to careers, because, we're talking about being parents of VIPs, and it's evident in our many interactions, you all are still encouraging your children to dig deep to maximize their potential. They're not looking at letting your disability hold you back. Now, that is granted you have one, and there's certain stipulations and accommodations we have to do, but the reality is we still want to help encourage children, because you all know there's been many blind and visually impaired people that have impacted our country in a very positive way. A very positive way.
Yep.
So if they can do it, my belief is, why can't our kids? Not say they have to impact the country or impact the world, but they can impact their own worlds. And if they're so called to, maybe impact the world. Who knows? We don't know. As parents, we just want to guide. So we're going to be talking about,
Just want to make a quick point. Coach D, if I could, a quick point out there.
Mm.
One of the places where I've seen this
Mhm.
happen time and time again
Mm-hmm.
is in some of the DBVI programs.
Yep.
I saw that my son, he says, why do I have to be there? But as soon as he got there and he saw how everyone's focusing on what they can do,
Yep.
it's a huge, huge thing.
Yep.
Oh,
It is.
I have to give that plug to DBVI because I have to say I'm one of their biggest fans.
Yeah. And you know what? In the time I've been with them now, a little over a year, starting with the staff development, doing this here, I am too. Because what I like about them, since we're talking about them, I may add my thoughts to it. You think outside the box. Matter of fact, I would dare say I always say you blow the box up. You don't even think outside the box, because if you think outside the box, you can always climb back in it. That's kind of what I believe about the box. But you blow the box up, and that's what it takes to move our young people. Our young people today are living in a blow up the box world. Everything is out there now is different than when I was coming up. They're exposed to more, they're hearing more voices, and so we need to give them something to listen to too. And so I just want to see one of my core philosophies that I've lived by for 20 plus years of doing my work when it comes to young people. We've empowered tens of thousands of them. I just came back from Harlingen with a bunch of young folks. And I was wondering if I still had it because of COVID. I haven't done a live program in so long, And we got there and we had those kids so on fire for their careers. I said, I still got it. COVID didn't take that away from me, But I love this quote, and that is, a student with a dream is a student with a future. However, a student with a dream is fueled by a caring adult who believes in their dreams. Every young person needs somebody to believe in them. And that's the foundational building block for the rest of their lives. My mom has dementia right now. We just celebrated her 80th birthday. And she's at a nursing home. I never want to put her in there, but dementia is too much to manage. And they're taking really good care of her. She's still her jovial self. She just can't, she's lost her memory. But I remember the things she shared with me as a child. I remember the standards that she established. And I didn't like some of those standards. I didn't like that at 16, 17 years old, I had to be in the house by 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, because the fun was just beginning at that time.
Right.
In my mind, at least, I didn't like the fact that she said, you got to do your homework, because all of my other friends, their parents never even looked at their homework. And she was, I like the standards that she said, you're going to respect young ladies, and there will come a time for you to be the father. And it's not when you're 16. Mm-hmm. And 17 and 18. You're going to wait to the right time. See, that's a person, when you look at this quote, that's a person helping me to get to where I need to get to. Even at a time when I don't necessarily understand it when I was young like that. I just wanted to do what everybody else is doing. Now that I'm an adult, I'm glad I didn't do everything everybody else is doing. Whoo, boy, some of those folks, unfortunately, are not in the best place. Mm-hmm. You see, so parents are the coach. And sometimes as a coach, you got to make tough decisions. But also as a coach, you need to guide. And then also as a coach, you need assistant coaches. You see, and Cherie says you pay tribute to DBVI. That's what DBVI, that's what they are. They're assistant coaches to you and your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this is a powerful quote that I use quite a bit, and it's one I'm quite proud of. And I like this guy, Jim Rohn, Google him, please. And if you have not heard his name, he's past one of the greatest, I'm telling you, one of the greatest speakers I've ever heard. And he and I had a conversation one time I'm a member, no longer a member, but I was a member of what's called the National Speakers Association. And he and I talked, and he said, what the greatest gift is, Daryl? I said, when people like him speak, you just open your ears and you say, whatever he wants to say it, because hundreds of millions of people all over the world knew this man. And he said, the greatest gift a parent can give their child is to give the purpose.
Love that.
And he said, here's what I mean. I'm standing here, me because my mom gave it to me and my dad gave it to me. And they said, I ran with it, but they gave it to me. And so that doesn't mean that parents need to tell kids what to do. career-wise, stuff like that. You need to be a doctor. I can't tell you the number of frustrated kids being told what to do when it's not even in them to do it. But when a parent can say, whatever it is you're called to do it with excellence, do it with discipline, and I'm going to get behind it. You know what I mean? I'm going to support you because that's something that you're naturally wired to do, and I'm there for you to help. You know, so again, even when we think about, again, a child that's with the visually impaired and, you know, blind and visually impaired, you know, some people may say, well, we just want to put them in certain types of jobs. Well, that child may express interest in something else. It may say, there's certain things I want to try to do. And so as a parent, we want to say, yeah, I'm not going to put a cap on you. Like I just heard you say, we're going to let my child go to Ireland. Yeah, enjoy yourself. And bring me back some of that good food, because they cook some good food over there too. So see if you can store that on the plane and bring some back over. And take plenty of pictures. What you're doing, in essence, right there, what you two are doing is you're empowering that child.
Yeah.
You're empowering them. Because now they're going to grow up and they're not going to have fear. My wife did something I was fearful. I'm always the fearful one. I got to control myself. I'm that overprotective one sometimes. But she went up to New York City with my kids. They were 15 and 16. And she said, I'm taking the train. That is New York City. I'm not suggesting any parent that listens to this do this, okay? This is just me talking. Small talk. This is not a recommendation, okay? And she said, I'm going to go up to so-and-so street, and you're going to catch the next train, and you're going to meet me there. And my kids was like, we're not going to be on the train with you. And she said, no, you're going to be on the train by yourselves. She said, because at 15, I was taking the train by myself. At 14, I was doing it. And so she went up, and then they were so nervous, but they caught the next train, and they met her, and she was standing there, and she's smiling at them. She said, good job. Now my kids can go anywhere. They're not worried. My daughter's in DC. She's learned DC, like every route to get places. She has no intimidation whatsoever.
Yeah.
My son is in California. He's figured out the bus routes, the train routes. He doesn't have a car. Why? Because there's no apprehension. That's a gift.
And when there's no apprehension, when you lose that fear, you're that much more aware, and then you can be street smart.
Yes.
Sometimes your fear can cloud you from seeing a danger that may actually be out there.
Right. So absolutely. And wisdom. So, because again, you know, it's wisdom. We're teaching them. Obviously, we got to tell them, don't be naive. You know, I mean, just don't go up to any old body and start having conversations. I mean, have some discernment.
Yeah.
But the reality is, we can't allow the fears that are perpetuated on us by these little devices and the media and the news to stop our children from maximizing their potential. Because all of our children have some kind of gift that society needs in some way. And it doesn't matter what the job is. You know, there's this young guy, his name was Michael. Michael had Down syndrome. And not this office we're in right now, but the office I was in before, he worked for this company there, right? And I'm telling you, you talk about a beacon of light. This guy, he knew every company in that building. And the company that he worked for said that, you know, if other people need assistance, you can assist them. If we're not busy, you can go assist them. So guess what? He would come there, Coach D, you need any help with anything? And I said, not today, Michael, but let's sit down and talk. We're talking about this and talking about that. He had one downside. He was a New England Patriots football fan. So I didn't quite care for that too much. And so but he was determined with that. And he would tell me, Coach, your team will never beat ours. And I said, well, we beat you and then we beat them in the Super Bowl not too long ago. So and then he said, after we beat them in the Super Bowl, he said, you got lucky. I love that guy.
Funny.
He was a vital contributor to the culture of that facility. And then I met his mom and dad. I said, that's why. Mom and dad just really empowered this guy. You know what I mean? And so he can walk up to people, have conversations, contribute. That's a gift. That's a gift. All right. So, and so I'm going to talk a few things about this one here, the theory of multiple intelligences. If you haven't heard about that, you're going to love this one because it's called MI. All right. And it was created by Dr. Howard Gardner. I have been a fan from day one. Have any of you heard of this before? Heard of it before? The theory of multiple intelligences before? Have you heard of it? Yes, no, maybe so. No, okay. You're gonna learn something pretty exciting today.
Great.
All right. You know what I have young people do when I'm sitting with them? I have them say, they'll sit next to someone. I have them shake that young person's hand and say this to them. Say, you are a genius, and they'll do it. They're saying, you are a genius, and they get all excited. Then once the kids get loud, it's like, I'm a genius. I'm like, yes, you are, because they've never heard that before. And so what I'm going to share with them is something that's going to prove it. And then we're going to talk about one of the greatest gifts of finding a kid's purpose in their path is really just observation. What do they have an affinity towards? Like my son, Alexander, when he was 1 year old, he would take all our shoes and line them up perfect. He would take like a plate, put it in the middle. It was just perfectly symmetrical. He's one. And I told my wife, that's an engineer if I've ever seen one right there. Look at this guy. He would go in his room at 2 and play and build cities with Lego blocks.
Oh, wow.
And my family get frustrated because you're always stepping on them. They're all over the house and they hurt your feet.
Oh, yeah.
But don't you dare come in his room and touch one of those cities that he built. He would get frustrated because that's his gift. That was his thing. My other son was art. Daryl drawing pictures all on my wall. I had to get the house painted with a different kind of paint because the kind you can erase, because there was always going to be some portrait on my wall. And so instead of saying to him, stop doing that, I said, no, I'm gonna let him do it. It's just I'm gonna erase him half the time when he does it, because our house will be just one big piece of artwork. All right. And then we're gonna talk about passion mapping and connecting these affinities to careers. And then parent motivation, we'll have a conversation. So let's take a look at some of this. Alfred Benet's IQ theory is limiting. All people were born with some form of genius. That's Dr. Howard Gardner. That's his premise. He refuted Dr. Benet's research. And, Dr. Benet came up with the IQ test. And when Dr. Benet, who's from France, came up with this test, his premise was some people were born geniuses and others weren't. And so a lot of people don't know this, that he created it way back in the 1800s to separate kids in school. These were the smart ones and these were the special education type ones. So people don't realize that's the birth of the IQ test. And then companies took it on, cities took it on, universities took it on, and they made it this big thing. Now, if you have a high IQ, you're smart and you're a genius. You're the one, you're going to succeed. And if you don't have a low IQ, then you're in trouble.
Yep.
But Dr. Howard Gardner came along and said, I don't necessarily agree with that. And this is what he said. I think we have multiple IQs. There's not just one. And so this is what he came up with. He said, and I want to move on from that. He came up with these, what he called areas of genius. He came up with linguistic intelligence. He came up with spatial intelligence, visionary. Some people can, some people build companies, they don't even know what they're doing. Like, I remember, what's that guy named Virgin Atlantic? I can't remember his name. The president of Virgin. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I think it's Richard or Robert, something like Richard something. Yeah. He said one time he's being interviewed, and the guy said, "Do you know how to read a financial statement?" He said, "No." Yeah, I said, no. He said, I pay somebody to do that. He said, if you put it in my face, I'm gonna be in trouble. But when it came to vision, he created the record company, he created the airlines. He's a visionary, so he can see the bigger picture. Logical, mathematical, that's who people will get into the sciences and they get into technology. And I always jokingly say that people who are logical, mathematical can read data type books and like it's nonfiction. Mm-hmm. Oh, look at these polynomials, it's exciting. All like, my wife is a math person. My kids, it drives them crazy because she's a math person. She's an engineer. Mm-hmm. My wife has a degree in engineering. She didn't pursue it career-wise later on in life, but everything was math and sciences. So she drilled it all the time and she loved talking about it. My kid's like, Mom, you're losing me, But she's logical, mathematical. In her life, she operates as an analytical. So I'm a little bit more on the spatial side. She analytical. That clashes every now and then. Because she wants the nuts and bolts and I just want to do it. Let's get it done. You're like, well, no, we got to do it this way. But it's a beautiful mix in our home because it balances things out, right? Interpersonal, these people have empathy, you know, and you can see it in our kids. Some kids, they can feel something going on with somebody and they're like, you okay? You all right? Everything all right? And then other kids don't even see it, like nothing wrong with them. You know, it's just different wiring. Okay. All right. And so musical, some people can play by ear. Some of the greatest musicians play by ear. They've never taken a course. I mean, just recently there was this drummer. He passed. He's in one of those big bands, and he was saying he never took a drum lesson in his life. You see, but when he gets on the drum, he can get the beat with and coordinate it and kaboom, get it done. Yeah, matter of fact, it was somebody with James Brown, the singer James Brown from back. Yeah, it was one of his drummers, and he said, I never took a course. The naturalists are people like the outdoors. You know what I mean? Then bodily kinesthetic or athletic. So these are just, as a parent, these are ones you want to really just know. You know what I mean? No, your child may have linguistic. My mom knew that I had linguistic intelligence because when I was a kid, she used to always say, one day I know you're going to use that mouth to make a difference. Because when I was a kid, I wasn't using it to make a difference. I was driving her crazy. But she never, ever shut it down. She knew that there was something I was born to do with that gift of linguistics. And she got a chance in her lifetime to see it because she encouraged it. You know, some people throw dumb jocks. No, jocks are smart. The way that they move their bodies, the way they have to read those playbooks, the way they need to read defenses, that's intelligence.
Yep, not good.
You understand what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so what do you think about these? Does this make sense to you as a parent? Do you see it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love this.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. And I tell you something, you're probably seeing something that's in some of your kids now. You're looking at this. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
we
Sometimes
see
a combination of more than one.
Yeah.
One.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Combination. Absolutely. Usually you have your primary and then there could be secondary ones. But there's usually one. Like I know for me, I'm linguistics. You know, that's mine. But I have a spatial in there because I'm a visionary and build stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But linguistic is my primary. That's why I do this stuff, training, coaching, things like that. So this is good information. The book is called Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences. I'll tell you something. I think I had that on the last slide. I don't know if I had that. Let me see. Yeah, one wrong way. Yeah. This book is intense. Because he's like straight up researcher, okay? And it's all research based. So it's nothing but data, numbers, and statistics. So if you're a bits and byte person, you'll love this book. But it's brilliant. And it's something, and he's funny, he's a typical researcher. After he did the work, I called up there to try to connect with him. He said, oh, we're not doing that anymore. I said, this is one of the most brilliant pieces of work I've ever seen. And you ain't doing it, you're not doing it anymore. We need to get this in all the schools and so that people can start working on this stuff. Yeah. You know, and I still believe that to this day. Maybe I'll get them to resurrect it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm big on reaching out to people. Yeah. So so genius must be first recognized before released in society. What genius do you see in your children? That's a question we want to ask ourselves. You know what I mean? And with parents, it's like we can see the genius and support it, or we can do the flip side of that, have expectations that discourage it. You know, like when my son was in art school, I felt bad for those kids because most of those parents did not support their kids being in art school. And you could see it on their faces when they were there.
Yeah. What kind of job are you going to get with that?
Yeah, what you going to get with that? You know, how are you going to do this and that? So my wife and I became like a mom and dad to a bunch of the kids because we were always encouraging. Some of them were in tears because all they wanted was they wanted their mom and dad to affirm them. And then some of those kids left there, went work for Google, went for Microsoft. They got good jobs, but the parents couldn't see it because they thinking starving artists. That's what they're thinking, you know. And that's typically starving artist is somebody not with a degree like that. It's the person that draws art and they go somewhere with the dream and then they have to wait a while till it produces. But kids who get degrees can go graphic artists. They can do visual design. There's a lot of things you can do now. There's degrees, all kinds of art degrees that take you right in. All the companies were coming to Ringling, Microsoft, you know, Pixar, studios, all of them looking for people. So we need to see these gifts in our children. And so when there's a training I have is passion mapping. And like I said, you know, observation is such an important, because a lot of times kids will say, I want to be this, and my mom and my dad want me to be that. And I'll tell you something, nothing stresses young people out more than that. They'll do it sometimes, but it's a weight that they carry. You know, I heard a story one time, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's true or not, but it sounded funny in a way, I guess. But this guy, he was a doctor, you know, by profession. And he said, you're going to be a doctor, because doctors are good. That's a good position. You're going to make good money. You're going to be a doctor. And his son didn't really want to be a doctor, but his dad said, you're going to be a doctor. And so his son was a dutiful son. He listened to his father, and he went to school. Then he went to med school, and he grinded out there, and he did all the stuff he was going to do. And he finally got to the point where he's time to graduate. He got his med degree, but he's a doctor. So he walks up on the stage. He walks over to the president. He shakes the president's hand. He gives him his degree. He walks off the stage. He gives the degree to his dad. You said I'm going to become a doctor. I am now a doctor. I'm off to become a drummer. He said, you wanted me to be a doctor. I got the doctor. Now here you go. Do what you want with this degree. I'm going to do what I love to do. And rumor has it, he became a top drummer in the music industry, because that's what he loved to do. You see what I'm saying? Now, so the reality is, I get it as a parent. You know, you give me a choice of drummer or doctor, I'm going to try to probably go for doctor too. But what we want to know is, what are our children, what's in their heart to do, and help them to identify that. And so observation is just one way of going about it. Like my son, now again, he's not at BMI anymore. He shifted gears, but when he was younger, he had an interest. You can see that he just always into military stuff, you know, and leadership. He still is into leadership. It's just that it's shifted for him. But the affinity that he had, this is the one I told you that was analytical and all of that, it's still there. So he's just repositioned it around something else now. And so again, like my daughter is now a global scholar at American University. She started a nonprofit, but when she was 10 years old, she's always loved arts and the dancing. She's now using it to help people. But there's a place called Sight and Sound Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, which is the largest Christian theater in the country. And she performed in front of 1 million people at 10 years old.
Wow.
10, you know, and this play Jonah, which was phenomenal. I mean, if you've never been there, the whale was coming off the stage. It was incredible, beautiful place. But she was in it. That's always been in her. You see, and then Daryl, I told you his story, okay? Then here he is with Senator Tom Carper in our state, because these senators really tried to encourage my son, because they love what he's doing. He won some awards, being a young innovator. And again, he's still trying to find his way, but the reality is that's his thing. So these are 3 children, 3 different things, you know, 3 different lanes. So we observe that, you know, and so we need observation. You know, do they like building or analyzing things? I mean, these are just some, do they like to talk? Like me, my mom said, I'm gonna use that mouth one day to make a difference all the time. Some kids, you can't shut them up, because they always got something to do. My youngest one now, Abigail, she's 11, and I jokingly call her my little Oprah. I said, you're gonna be a talk show host. Dad, I'm not gonna be a talk show host. I said, girl, you talk from the moment you get up to the moment you go to bed. You're gonna be a talk show host. And I'm just playing with her. She's probably gonna be something else, but that's her thing, you know. Then once we find out okay, our children seem to have an affinity towards something, and exposure. Are they exposed to the things that they really get excited about? You know, does it mean putting them in the class or putting them in the program for the summer? You know, or these are things that you can do. Analyze what seems to have the affinity for this interest. Now, you know, talk to me, Nene family, about, you put your kids in a lot of stuff, right? Yeah. What were you thinking with that? Because obviously, I think it's partly connected to what we're talking about.
Chaya, when she was 3 years old, she was out on a lawn with a microphone and making announcements and stuff like that. And she would love to parade around and model different clothes. And she would go around and thank everybody for her third birthday. All the people who gave her presents, she went and oohed and awed on every single present that she got and made them feel like that was the best present in the world. She was
Yeah.
3 years old. We're like,
Yeah.
she likes to be in front of people. She
Yep.
wants to be performing. And
Yep.
she's an actress.
I love it. I love it. And and then some of our kids is different like that. It's awesome. Yeah.
You're talking about Kedar.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Kedar, okay, so for Kedar, he loved to just be a mischief and run around and
Mhm.
running around and a lot of things to do with sports and stuff. He's always
Yeah.
interested in that. And then he would argue with you all the time. It's just like argued.
Yep.
Instead of, we like to argue so much. If you're, his counselor and we did the same thing, it's like, have you thought about becoming a lawyer? He is a lawyer. And he loves real estate like I do. So he's a real estate lawyer.
You know what? I was thinking that's probably what it is. Absolutely. Kudos to you all.
Now in the youngest one,
I love that.
we noticed he's on the phone a lot. He knows media. He knew right from the middle school. We gave a phone to be able to communicate with us, but he used it. He knew how to all the functions of the phone right away. So he's very technical.
Yep.
He watches shows and movies, and he loves to watch those things. So now in cinema and business, we said, look, if you go in cinema, make sure the supporting thing you need for that is business, because in anything you do, you're gonna need the business.
Absolutely.
And he's doing well in calculus and math and accounting. I was like, okay.
And his brother and sisters, man.
Yep. Yeah.
How come you're getting straight A's in calculus? We never did that. Whatever.
I don't know anybody got straight A's in calculus.
Yeah, I know.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's what he's doing. And we're waiting to see, we told him whatever you like to do, even if you change your mind later, it's okay. It's something, because college really teaches you how to learn, how to discern, and how to figure things out. And it's all about experiencing different things to see what part you are, because you see a reflection of yourself in thing that you do, and then you realize I like this and I don't like that, and all of that is important, the likes and the dislikes.
Absolutely.
People and things. And so the more you can expose yourself to these things is important. He's already been to Paris on a student exchange. He was afraid to go and very scared, and he went. When he was there, he goes, I don't want to come back.
That's the
He was 15 at the time, 15.
Wow. Love it.
Now because of that trip, he's not scared about going to Limerick now. He's like looking forward to it. He knows he's done it before. He can now go out there to Europe and find his way around and stuff. So
love it. That's
great points out here, Coach D.
Mm-hmm.
Nima is especially good in this. One of the thoughts that crosses my mind is, as I went through the sort of, as a parent, I'm one of those guys who I want things organized. I want it in my control.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to teach myself back off, say observation, that exposure, inquisitiveness.
Yep.
I've got a strong personality.
Mm-hmm.
Got to understand someone like our youngest is more retiring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want ever for him to think I'm doing it because dad wants me to, or he thinks he wants me to.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I had to kind of look at myself and tone myself back. Make sure I'm not coming overpowering.
Yep.
And I don't know if other parents who are watching this will watch it later on, whether they went through this or you've gone through it.
Mm-hmm.
Each one, as much as you're watching the children, you've got to watch yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing. Are you really walking that talk that we see up here on your screen?
Yep. Listen, man, thank you so much for sharing that, because that's a very extremely important point, because, the reality is many times we do that because we love our kids and we think we really want the best for them. So sometimes we have this structured approach, but then our kids are so wired, they're wired so differently. And so our approach may, in essence, become a deterrent to progress if we're not careful. If we're not careful. But you just said something that's so important from a coaching perspective, because people might talk about the parent as coach. The coach realized I need to make adjustments to help the player maximize their potential. Now, we're not talking about players, we're talking about children, but using a sports analogy.
Yep.
And that's called good coaching, my friend. So job well done for that. And job well done for you all the way you're raising your kids, because this is what it's all about. What you're doing is really training. This is training ground to go out and fulfill. I got to share this little quick funny story. I know we don't have much time, but I'm going to make sure we get through this effectively. But the lawyer part, I was laughing because I knew you were going to say lawyer. And I'm going to tell you why. I have a friend named Sheldon Rennie. And Sheldon is from the St. Croix. And when he was a little boy in St. Croix, he argued all the time. Now, his mom would get upset. Why is this boy always arguing and challenging me? His dad would say, no, 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 there's a lawyer in there. There's a lawyer in there. Don't stop him. Let's work with it, but no stop him. Guess what he grew up to become? A lawyer. Guess what he is today? A superior court judge.
Oh, wow.
A superior court judge. You see, and I met that dad, and he said, and we talk, because Sheldon's a good friend. It said, Sheldon told me your story about how you raised him. He said, yeah, it drove his mom crazy, but I saw something. And I said, you're a good dad, man. That's the way to do it. So observation is huge, exposure. Like our kids, we were always like getting them involved with different things to see stuff based upon what they were interested in. Sophia took acting classes and she got involved with this and that because that's what's her thing. Daryl was art classes. AJ is more robotics, analytical stuff because that's what he expressed interest in. But and people always say, oh, you got to spend a lot of money. No, you don't. A lot of times there's free things out there. You just got to do your homework, and just get them exposed. I think too many of our children spend too much time on this instead of going out and being exposed to things, that can enhance their future, So again, enroll them in free courses, expose them to people that have succeeded in their interests. Nowadays, if we're going to use this, Google people that their careers that they're interested in and let them learn from some of those folks. If you're going to do this, use it effectively. Like with Daryl, we used to always look at documentaries on Walt Disney. Why? He's an artist. And so Walt became a hero. Walt died 50 years ago and Daryl never met him, but he was moved by his life. And then watch shows, attend programs. I watch a lot of documentaries with my kids because you learn a lot from learning about people's lives and things like that. So that's just a few things to consider. And then, passion mapping. Let me talk about this. This is so important. Education comes alive when a young person understands the connection between the classroom experience and their future dreams. I have been belaboring this point to educators. I said, we got to make the connection instead of just teaching a course. All right. And so like one time I had a good friend of mine, Dr. Rod Moten. He's a math guy as well. He's graduated from Cornell and he's a senior scientist for JP Morgan right now. And I had him come speak with some young people that I was working with. And he took math and made it fun. He broke it down and, everything is intense. I still don't understand to this day what he was talking about, but it was impressive. And these kids were having so much fun while he was talking about math. Then he connected it to, it's about critical thinking skills. And what math does, if you can understand, so-and-so and so-and-so, you can understand how to solve a problem in the workplace and things like that. He broke it down. And he had the attention. These were 7th graders, which is hard to get the attention of people that grade. And the teachers looked at him like, how in the world did you do that? And he just basically said, a lot of times we show the equations, but we don't show what's behind the equation. And that's what's fun to the kids.
Yeah.
And the teacher said, I'm gonna start doing that more. So she said, because you had these kids so engaged. I said, yeah, because we just come in and say, this is the assignment, but we don't connect it to some type of something, And so, yeah. So that's just, that's important. So with disconnecting dreams to educations or connecting careers, or passion mapping, it's identification of the affinity through observation and other things, understanding and support via a caring adult, and then it leads to academic relevance. Now I know why this class is important. Instead of just go to class and get an A. Like, okay, why? And so what we've done is created a system that we've taught on. Well, I tell you, I wish y'all could attend some of these passion. I got several of them booked this summer. I don't do a lot of these anymore, but people keep calling. It's like, you won't let it go to rest, will you? And so they call in, and we're doing this because we want young folks to understand these affinities, what you got in them. And this is just idea. We have the passion map, where we talk about just different affinities, like sports affinity. The average young person, you talk about sports, they think pro athlete. That's all they think. They don't know anything else. And so we'll say, no. Sports is an affinity. It's an attract. So you maybe you're an athlete. Maybe you could be a sports doctor. Maybe you could be a sports agent. Maybe you could be going to sports marketing. I said, they're like, what's sports marketing? I said, what do you got on your feet? Sneakers. How do you think they got there? My mom bought them. No, Nike promoted it. You went to your mom and said you wanted it, and then they bought it. That's called marketing. Somebody marketed to you. Really? They don't even know the term marketing, And so we're educating them on everything is connected. What happens when an athlete gets hurt? I don't know, coach, what happened to him? Well, you have therapists. They're there to help. But if it's serious, they go to a sports doctor. Really? There's a doctor just for sports? Absolutely. You see? And then I said, how do athletes get on these teams? They go play for them. I said, well, no, there's a little bit more to that. Well, I don't know. They're talented. They come get them from college. I said, no, there's a middle person. It's called a sports agent. And that sports agent negotiates the contract. What's that mean, coach? Oh, so if Shaquille O'Neal, because I've been teaching this a long time, I use Shaquille, gets $100 million contract, the agent gets 10%. And I was like, 10%?
Right.
Yeah. What do they do to get that much money? Negotiate the contract. Now you have half the room trying to be sports agents.
Yeah.
It's funny, but I'm telling you, it's really awesome to see them come alive with these workshops and trainings. Relevant academics. So once I understand the passion, now, what's the academics? And, and then it could be math, sciences, English, communications, all of that. Then possible college majors or VOTEC. It doesn't have to be college. It could be VOTEC, some type of training for career, something like that. And then also, this is really important, impossible role models, live or deceased, because everyone is on the internet now. So if they're deceased, I can just go Google them and learn.
Yeah.
These are all, listen, all this stuff. You can see my passion. I love this subject because I've seen tens of thousands of young people come alive when they got this. Any questions before I move forward? Any comments or thoughts relating to this? Yeah. Yeah, it's just really interesting. Let's talk, okay, lawyer, be a lawyer, judge, crime scene investigator. Young people really get into being a crime scene investigator. You want to know why? Anybody want to take a guess?
Looking at the shows and TV.
There you go.
CSI, right?
That's exactly what it is. It's the influence of television. Yep. So I can go in the law and become CSI, And I said, well, it's not as easy as it looks, but if somebody's doing it, yes, you can, you see? And so again, when they think law, they think lawyer or police officer. You don't know all these other positions. And in school, you can be an author, you can be a counselor, education, teacher, school administrator, professor, on and on and on. And so as parents, it's good to know this because a lot of times we think, even like the kids, we're tracking them down one lane. And realistically, there could be multiple pathways they can go within one area of passion. So
the same thing with like cinema with Chandan,
He wants to be a director right now, but he's like, oh, I don't know if that's where it could be, or I don't know. I said, it's okay. There's so many areas in film and cinema. You could be an editor, a video person.
Yeah.
And behind the camera, in front of the camera.
Absolutely.
Dozens of different areas in there which you can go and try different roles and see what works for you and go there. If that director is not for you, whatever, it's okay.
So looking at this, part of what I'm hearing for a parent as a coach, as a parent, you may not know all these kind of things anyway, but you can do a little some research yourself. Whether it's the internet, the library, or talk to people who might be in that area and come across with a whole lot of things. Those are things we could do.
Yep.
Kind of jumpstart my kids. And even better, if we can get our kids to do that with us, then they know how to fish, if you will.
I love that, man. Let me tell you something. When we first started doing these passion mapping workshops many years ago, it was just the kids. as we evolved, you know, we're in those rooms with the kids, the parents.
Yeah.
A lot of the organizations that would bring us in, it would be the parents and the kids. And boy, that's when magic happened. It was beautiful to watch. You know what I mean? Again, since COVID, we haven't done a lot of stuff, you know, because now the parents like, wow, I didn't think about this for my kids, you know, like, yeah. And I said, you're the coach.
Yep.
You can just, all you're doing as a coach is helping them win. And by, you know, and again, by just, you know, identifying what their path, like I said, remember what Jim Rohn said, the greatest gift is the gift of purpose. That starts at the home. Teachers can do it too. Don't get me wrong. Coaches can do it, like school. There's a lot of people that can influence our kids, but we as parents, we need to know about this. So thank you for that input. That was really helpful. So, you know, take a time to create a map, multiple career paths, relevant academics, college mates, and soft skills, because that's where the employers are really struggling today. The attitudes, the dispositions, the way they communicate. You can't just say anything. Like this young man, I was at a restaurant, I had to correct him. He called me OG, right? Now that's the thing that people say now to older people, OG. And I said, sir, I'm bringing my wife to this very exclusive restaurant to be called Mr. Andrews. I am not OG. You know, it's not, I'm just kidding. I said, no, you can't kid like that with customers.
Yeah.
You show, when you see somebody that walks in there that's older than you show them respect. He said, I'm sorry, sir. I said, no problem, man. I just want you to get what you need to get. If you don't feel so comfortable that you talk to people like that, you see. So what I'm saying is there's a generation that have fallen into these type of things are okay to say, but it can hurt their future. So in the job, employers want respectful, courteous people that's going to show respect for their coworkers, for the customers, if there's customers, clients, if they're in a client-based organization. And a lot of kids today have been kind of in the trap of speaking and saying things that seem kind of cool to say, but are killers on the job. And I'm only saying that because I have employers that tell me, Coach, this is a problem. And so parents need to know that and have that conversation. You know, I tell my children all the time, ma'am and sir. And nobody know OG, nobody nothing, ma'am and sir, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so. Daryl went to school in Florida, and when one of the deans said, I can't get him to call me by my first name. And I said, he never will.
That's funny. I've heard the same thing from
Yeah.
professors of all three of my children.
There you go. Because that's how you raised them.
Yep.
And you know what? They get tremendous favor as a result. People are willing to do anything to help them. It's the kids that say anything to them. Like at his campus, we got the same guy I was telling you about. He said 3/4 of these kids I don't even want to talk to because they're rude, they're insensitive, and they can say whatever. But your son is always polite, always respectful. I had a security guard tell me that one time. I was on the campus one time, and the security guard, he had to help me get to a building. I didn't know where to go because Daryl was in the building. I wanted him to meet somebody. And we went to the building. I said, oh, this is the building right here. Thank you. I'm lost. I'm on the other side of the campus. And we got to the building. Daryl was walking out. And I said, there's my son right there. And the security guard said, that's your son? He said, man, that's the most respectful young man on this campus. You know, as a parent, you're like, oh, God, yes, thank you. And so, but guess what? It gives them favor and it gives them opportunities.
And understanding what you just said, it's not just his boss, but the security guard. Everyone deserves a level of
bingo. Everybody. Yep. Yes, sir. And but it helps them position them for life. So don't try to do all of this as once. That's my son when he was younger. He went to think called team. It was team back. He wasn't a team where they teach young kids how to get into politics. So, you know, we used to call him the little governor. He actually, with the Team Pack program it's only 3-time governor. So the kids had to nominate a governor. When he actually became a teen, he won governor 3 times, you know? And so it's exposure. This was exposure. They were actually at Legislative Hall in the state of Delaware, you know, and they were down there sitting, you know, they weren't in session, sitting in the seats of the senators and House reps, but it's exposure, you know what I mean? And every year we would put our kids in that program, and it really helped them, you know, so it's important. So that's really much all that I have for this. The reality is, parents that are listening, you know, parents of VIPs, see the gifts that's in your children. You know, I've always said, I've said it many times, I'll say it before, disability does not mean inability. You know, observe what your young children have in them and try to give them the tools to be able to advance it forward. Because the reality is all of our children are gifted, as we heard about Howard Gardner, multiple intelligences, they are, you know, and every now and then call your child a genius. You're like, what are you, mom, a genius? What do you mean? Just say that Coach D guy told me that. Coach D guy told me tell you this, and because they are, and I think once they can hear that coming from an affirming person, it boosts their confidence and morale. So here's my information. Reach out any questions you may have. I love this work. I love this topic. I don't think I gave it enough justice in an hour, but I really believe if parents start becoming effective coaches of their household team, you will develop a family dream team. I believe that with all my heart.
As you shared some great books, some great thoughts today. One of the things that comes to my mind, I'll share that with you, is as you give your child a purpose and put that dream in front of them, to reach that, there are times when you go through the lows as well.
Yep.
And what gets you through is a level of self-discipline, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
One of the books that I absolutely love is by Admiral McRaven.
Mm-hmm.
It's his, he gave a commencement address in San Diego. And he starts off with one small thesis. One we're always had to do in the Navy. And you make your bed.
Yep. There, yeah.
Silly little thing, or it seems like a silly little thing,
It's
but
not.
that structure.
It's not.
And if you get a chance, read that book. You can read it probably in half an hour.
It's amazing.
Great book. The man is tremendous.
Yep. One of my good friends, a guy named Josh Davies, he has the Center for Work Ethic.
Yeah.
They did research. And my son was at one of my events with me when he was sharing this. It was so cool. My son, Alexander. And all the research, they researched hundreds of parents, hundreds of households. They researched, and they talked to the workplace and all that. They found out that one of the number one indicators of success later on in life was chores. Homes who make their children do chores, those kids go out and are way more responsible than homes who don't have their kids do chores. So my son looked at me and said, "Dad, that's exactly what you said." I said, "Now you got research to back it up, son."
Yep.
And so another thing I want to say, because we are talking about the parent committee, another tool that's a part of your family tool chest is the committee. You know what I mean? Being involved with the committee and getting together. I want to highly suggest that as a committee that you do maybe once a month parent chats. We're just getting together once a month. That's all. Set it up. We're not going. There's no agenda. We're just going to talk about what's going on. What challenges do you have? And we're here to support. That's a really easy, low-hanging fruit. You know what I mean? Just once a month, 45 minutes. Yep. And it's parents of VIPs. And if we have 5 people, if we have 500, we just want to give parents a place to go to really talk about these things. Because if not, you know what I mean? I always say this, and this is not, I don't mean it like verbal, literally, but death through isolation. I'm not saying that you die, but you get so caught up in the challenge that isolation, it kills your morale, it kills and then you got a whole host of people here that's willing to say, "Hey, I'm right there with you." You know what I mean? So I would encourage to start up something. We can start up something like that just once a month, just parent chats. And then from there, we can share some of what DBVI is doing and some of programs that are coming up, but give parents a place to go to be able. So anyway, that's just something I want to put in here because parents will be watching this, and I hope that can happen, because that's the true strength of this parent committee. Because when we started, keep in mind, we're talking about parents motivating parents and having that community of motivation. And I still believe that that's highly possible. So thank you all so much. I know it was a lot of information in a very short period of time, but I feel pretty good about that. So I'm gonna give myself a hand clap, and I'm gonna give you all hand claps too.
All right, thank you, that's great.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, this is helpful. Thank you for being the kind of parents that we're talking about here, because that's what it takes, So we'll give some dates for the next session. And that's going to be equally as impactful, good information. I believe in this parent as coach model, and because there are kids and nobody else's. There are kids, but there are many people out there that love our kids, that are part of our dream team, our assistant coaches that we want to interact with, have our kids exposed to, like with DBVI, with the summer's coming up, wonderful programs, assistant coaches there to help. That's what it's all about. So
Fantastic. We'll be posting the
yeah, you'll get this
recording,
real
the link to
soon.
this
And we'll put this,
recording.
yeah, we'll put the link up. Megan, do you want anything you want to say from DBVI perspective? Any thoughts or?
No, I mean, I would just encourage parents to reach out to learn more about the
Mhm.
resources that we have available.
Mhm.
If you don't know how to contact the parent committee, please contact anyone at DBVI and we'll be happy to get your contact information over to Sharish so that he can reach out and tell you about what's going on.
All right. Well, listen, thank you all. You know, I've been working with you all so long. I feel like your family now. I can't wait to come to Virginia. When are you going to invite me over for dinner? I'm just, I think we got some good cooks here. I can tell.
You know you have a standard invitation. You know.
Okay. Well, I'm
Right
gonna
on
take
the
you up
way.
on that. All right. Thank you, my friends. Take
Okay,
care.
thank you.
Thank
folks.
you.
Good talking to you. Have a nice.
Bye.
Bye-bye.